Good evening, everyone. Welcome. And this evening, welcome to George here for the first time. Welcome, George. And also welcome back to Aaron, back from Norway. Not so cold to here than in Norway. I guess it may be summer over there at the moment.
Yeah, spring.
Spring,
Yeah.
spring. Yeah.
Nice time.
This is a good time to be in Australia.
Yeah.
So this evening, apologies from Rihanna. She said that she'd be away, and also Ivan, he said he wouldn't be making it. But we're here, and also welcome to those that are connecting with us online, wherever they might be. So let's settle into our evening with our meditation. So just finding a comfortable sitting position, aligning our body with some degree of symmetry, balance, poise, helping to enable an inner mindful presence. Eyes gently closed, helping to bring awareness within. And we can begin by having an initial deep, relaxing, letting go breath. Using that outgoing breath to carry away any stress tension that may have been building in our body over the happening of this day, the happening of the week so far. Breathing out, relaxing, releasing, letting go. Putting aside issues, worries, concerns, all those things that pertain to self, the self-identity, the roles of self, the responsibilities of self, and even using our meditation time as time to take a break from the need to be thinking. Most thoughts are about self, self in relation to someone or something. So giving our mind a chance to become calm and still, quiet, silent, spacious, moving into a deeper domain of our being, enabling some inner stillness, silence, and spaciousness. And for this, we can use the reference point at the present moment, being here in the present moment, appreciating that the past and future are simply thoughts in the mind, but for now, just remaining present and using the naturally occurring sensation of our breath as that reference point for the present moment. Meditation is practicing being present and realizing the point of existence, the present moment, making that real for us. And again, using the naturally occurring sensation of our breath. But before focusing on the breath, just feeling into the body with awareness, getting a sense of our body sitting here, mindfulness of the body. Feeling the body sitting. Maybe feeling our feet connecting with the floor. Contact sensation, feet against the floor. Feeling our body connecting with the chair, the cushion or meditation stool, noticing that particular sensation, feeling that mindfully. Feeling our hands resting in our lap, maybe one hand against the other or against the fabric of our clothes. Just sensing, feeling, noticing, another point of mindfulness. Bringing awareness up to our face. Even refining awareness to notice sensations on our face. And also noticing subtle light coming in through the closed eyelids. And looking into that lightness, brightness, color patterning, or the blankness that's there, just a blankness. A forward focused gaze into the space in front through the closed eyelids. We might notice a few background sounds, but we don't need to be distracted or disturbed by those. Certainly, we don't need to think about them. And also not being distracted by any thoughts in the mind. Ideally, the mind becomes quiet. Some inner silence, so not engaging into the activity of thinking, thoughts as a mental image, thoughts as a mental sound or voice, but rather using our mind to exercise and focus attention in the present by noticing each breath. The next while, making life pure and simple. Just noticing an in-breath, noticing an out-breath, feeling each breath, helping the mind to become calm and collected, still and silent, stable and serene. Feeling each breath at the nose nostril area. Maybe also looking into the lightness, brightness through the closed eyelids. And if it's helpful, using a mental word or two in the mind together with each breath, a mantra, which helps to block the mind from being caught up in thinking. Whatever words might work. For example, saying in the mind, calm on the in-breath, ease on the out-breath. Calm, ease, calm, ease, calm, ease. Repeating the ongoing mantra, helping to keep the mind focused in the present. We find we get distracted from the present, the breath, the mantra, then just returning, beginning again, coming back to here, now, knowing. Please help yourself to some tea, biscuits, and we can then have some reflection and discussion. Justin, do you want to maybe open a couple of the windows the back there, please? Anton, can I get you to maybe open a couple of the windows there, just maybe at the top? Or maybe lower down as well, get some air in. So how are we feeling this evening? Good, okay. Feeling into the Eastern Standard Time as opposed to daylight saving. So last week it would have been 8 o'clock now it's 7 o'clock. Bit darker. So getting darker, getting cooler, things changing. Even to notice how it does affect our meditation practice, so that especially if you're getting up early in the morning for meditation, which now it's lighter than what it was before, but darker in the evenings. These changes that we go through. So have Eastern Standard Time for quite a number of months towards the end of the year, and changes over again. The last few sessions we've been reflecting upon relationship, the importance of relationship, and the first session on this sort of collection of teachings reflecting upon the relationship of the mind to our sensory experience. How we know we are alive is through the senses: thinking, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling, and some thinking. So having a conscious relationship to the world of experience through the senses. So mindfulness is really required for that, particularly quieting the mind from being caught up in the comments, commentary, critiques, complaints, and so forth, just to allow a more correct, direct experience through the senses, coming to our senses both literally and metaphorically. And then we looked into the relationship with others, so the interpersonal, and how important that is, that we can't live in isolation. We can spend time alone for periods of time, but we still need to connect with others in some way, in some form. We need others for our well-being, for our life, and the various forms of interpersonal relationship that give us a sense of psychological health, physical health and well-being, even the sense of having a group to connect to, sense of communing, connecting as a collective, as a group, a sangha, a congregation, a fellowship, important. That also helps to provide a sense of identity, sense of self through being part of a group, support of a group. And then we last week looked into the intrapersonal relationship, the relationship that we have with ourselves, which is very, very important, and obviously a foundation for other relationships. How we feel about ourselves, how we relate to ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, how we think about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. And the question was, how is that? Are we our own best friend? Are we a companion to ourselves? Given that we're on this journeying through time and space, life, with ourselves, so to speak. And certainly our sense of self does change and modify and grow, hopefully in a positive way over the course, through the course of our lifetime. But having ideally a healthy sense of self. And if it isn't healthy, then to look at what's going on to develop more of a healthy sense of self. The question was, if we were to externalize ourselves as another person, would we like to be friends with that person? Would we invite that person home to our house? Would we be okay living with that person? Sleeping with that person ourselves? Can we be compassionate, caring, forgiving of that person ourselves? Can we be trusting of that person? Can we look after them? So these are psychological, psychotherapeutic type of questions. But I think the more we practice meditation, the more we get to understand our sense of self, even understanding what is the self, what is this phenomena that we call the self. Certainly the foundation teaching in Buddhism, particularly in the discourse called the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, which is talking about the sense of self, the characteristics of the self, even the aspect of no permanent self. The self is a fluxing, changing psychological phenomena. But a lot of insight comes from seeing the self simply as that, a helpful, hopefully helpful, but sometimes the self can be very unhelpful. Its demands and so forth, its fears, its frustrations, its disappointments, its despair, what we have to put up with, the self. But insight into the true nature of this thing that we call the self. But what becomes also important is the experience when the self is absent, when there's no self happening. When we, as I said last week, when we forego being poured into and relating to ourself, the self, what happens then? Which could be a fearful experience for people. It's like, oh, I don't want to sort of be without my sense of self. Then how do you sleep? Because sleep is, the only way of going to sleep is to forget yourself or put yourself aside, because self is only known through thinking. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm the sort of person, I did that yesterday, I'm doing that tomorrow. But when there's no thought, the self isn't happening. But what's happening is something that is even more profound in that we're entering into a deeper domain of our being, as I mentioned in the meditation, and allowing something which is unfortunately not fully appreciated, even not fully understood. And yet it is one of the most valuable things that we need, require for, certainly for a relationship, certainly for relating, and certainly for meditation. What could this be? Any ideas? In a way, it's not a thing, it's a non-thing, but we describe it as something. I experienced this, but it's actually I experienced the absence of something, which was then the non-thing. Silence. Silence. So even in the context of relationship, and relationship is about relating, there needs to be quality silence. Even in relating, communicating, speaking, there needs to be silence between words, otherwise just mashes, they crash into each other and we don't understand what's being said, especially if this person's speaking fast. So silence between the words, even some silence between the sentences, just a quiet pause. Silence between the paragraphs or phrases that we're speaking. Silence even between the dialogue. Someone says something, some silence before the other person sort of then says something. And even in relationships, to have times where there's just silence. Of course, communicating, speaking is important, sharing information and so forth. But if there's no silent time, then it can be overwhelming, upsetting, distressing, confusing. And particularly in the context of, you could say, psychological health, we do need to have times in the day where there is some silence, let alone spiritually, the importance of spiritual health. So, for example, in the day, if there's this constant external noise, it can be unsettling. There needs to be some time in the day where there is some silence, less sound, lower volume, or no sound, just some silence, not just when we're going to sleep. And as well as the importance of external sound, external sort of silence, go to a quiet place, sit down, listening to the silence. But also what's even more important is the internal silence, the mental silence, because people can go somewhere. On occasions when I've been teaching retreats, people come and they're in a lovely environment, maybe a forested environment, retreat place, retreat center, beautiful, sound of a few animals, some insects, but the roaring sound of the thoughts, no silence. It takes a few days for the thinking to quieten down. This ongoing commentary punctuated with personal commercials about oneself, advertising. So it takes a while for the brain mind to quieten down to enable some inner silence, quiet mind. Very, very important for mental, psychological health. We know this for ourselves when we get caught up in something, maybe something that's causing anguish, upset, irritation, anxiety even, the constant thinking, and it's distressing, very, very distressing. We just seek some quiet, or maybe we want the answer to something, because the answer will then, the mind will go quiet. But until that, there's a sense of anxiety, frustration, want to know, got to know, how can I know, I have to know this. Very, very challenging. So silence becomes really, really essential for health and well-being. And we could even say that the practice of meditation is the practice of allowing the mind to, yes, calm down, but quieten down into silence so that the mind can be quiet. And as I mentioned last week, so that the heart can be experienced as silent, the silent heart, so to speak. And that's the essence of spiritual practice, quietening the mind to experience that inner depth of profound silence. And in that, there's likely to be stillness because the mind isn't moving, jumping around here and there. And also spaciousness because the mind's not being caught up in objects, creating sort of the space of the mind filled with stuff, but some inner spaciousness, some inner stillness, and particularly some inner silence. So the Buddha spoke very much about the importance of silence, particularly in meditation, developing and deepening our meditation, particularly the meditation of samatha, calm meditation that leads into samadhi, concentration, focused attention, and even into the deeper states of meditation, jhana, where the mind doesn't think. There's deep, profound silence, stillness, spaciousness, a great sense of ease, and also a great sense of even joy, bliss, experiencing something beyond just the mentally made world of experience, a whole different dimension. Neurologically, the brain moving from the regular beta brainwave patterns into more of an alpha, beta, delta brainwave patterns, deep, deep, profound peace without being asleep. And certainly over the millennia, centuries, decades, spiritual teachers have spoken about the importance of silence. So, for example, I did a retreat in Thailand with Ajahn Sumedho. He was actually resident in England at the time at his monastery there, Chituveweka, Monastery of the Silent Mind or Silent Heart. And he came to Thailand and taught a 10-day retreat to the Western monks on the sound of silence. He'd often talk about it as the roaring sound of silence. When the mind becomes really silent, it's like it's a sound that you can hear, the sound of silence, the roaring sound of silence. It was a theme that he sort of spoke about a lot, the sound of silence, particularly through meditation. Later on, I read quite a lot of the teachings of Krishnamurti. Anyone read Krishnamurti? Yeah, a few people. So he was probably a very, very famous spiritual teacher in the 20th century, based in England. He taught around the world, even in Australia, but based in England, of Indian background, educated in England, I think at Oxford, and a profound sort of world teacher, but without aligning to any particular religion or tradition. In a way, he was sort of like Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle is the current sort of spiritual teacher that doesn't have any sort of particular tradition he aligns to, but sort of more of a eclectic approach to spiritual, psychological appreciations of how to live a more conscious life. So Krishnamurti was very much, in a way, the predecessor of Eckhart Tolle, talking to groups of people, university people, here and there, retreats and so forth. And he'd often talk about the extraordinary silence of the mind. This, when one comes to sit and be and allowing the mind to become still and silent, and an extraordinary experience that comes from the silence of the mind. Very profound. And also Father John Main, who was a Benedictine monk. He spoke a lot about the silence as well. He, as a Benedictine monk, he, in a way, brought back the ancient tradition of meditation in Christianity through the teachings of John Cassian, who was also a monk, who then influenced Benedict, Saint Benedict, who developed the Rule of Benedict that became the foundation of a lot of Western Christian monasticism. But John Main, Father John Main, advocated the importance of meditation for developing the silence of the mind, that spiritual practice is really about developing that silence, because only when that silence is there that one can know things in a deep, profound way. And that if we don't have that silence, then we're lacking a great sense of psycho-spiritual health. So it becomes something that we need to maybe be more aware of in regular life, so that in regular life, not just having external silence, but seeking out times of the day when you can just be silent, no need to speak. Even if one's being with other people, one doesn't have to speak. Even making an agreement, let's just have our meal in silence. Let's go for the drive to wherever in silence. Just see if one can do that. Even if you're living alone, just have some days where you're looking to be silent, maybe not listen to music, radio, and even trying to be more inwardly silent. And that's where having a mental word or a mental mantra, even repeating that to help keep the mind from getting caught up in self-talk and chatter. And then certainly in our meditation practice to appreciate the silence, because most of us probably find the challenge of meditation is that the mind wants to think, thinking in words. Shopping lists, to-do lists, has done, could have done, didn't do, want to do, will do, won't do. Why do I have to? All that sort of inner mental talk that goes on. So the real peace and serenity and profound knowing is beneath that sort of level of self-talk that goes on. And the self-talk, it's generally always about ourselves. Little saying from Wu Men, why are you so unhappy? Why are you so unhappy? Why are you sad? And Wu Men answers the question that he's asked himself, because all your thoughts are about yourself and there isn't one. It's not real. So in a way, a lot of wasted thinking, a lot of wasted thoughts. Of course, we do need to think, but only thinking when we need to. Elegant sufficiency with regard to the use of thought. Thought is a tool. Even the Buddha spoke about the importance of right thought, the right use of thought. Don't overdo it. So that having times of our day where there's just no thought, not even talking to somebody else, but not even talking to ourselves, just doing something mindfully, with awareness, with presence, enabling some inner quietness, peace. And more of a profound knowing can occur then, a knowing that's beyond the realm of the mentally created, beyond the limitations of thought and concepts. And certainly our meditation, as we do here, allows the practicing of that possibility. So thoughts, any thoughts? Well, you have some thoughts now. Any questions or thoughts about this concept or idea of silence, the beauty of silence, the sacredness of silence, the spiritual practice of silence? Brendan?
That deeper sound of silence that Ajahn Sumedho talked about, I guess when my mind does become calm, then I can hear like a ringing in my ears. It's silent, it's quiet, but there's a ringing. Is it that sort of sound, or is it something deeper that's not like a hearing through your ears, but hearing through your mind sort of thing?
I would say in the sense that Ajahn Sumedho was talking about, it's more of a, it's not a physical sound like the ringing in the ears, but a different sort of psycho-spiritual sound of silence that wouldn't be disturbing, but more a sense of relaxing or going into that sound, the sound of silence.
So experiencing it just within the mind,
Mm.
not through the senses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bit like a nimitta, which means a sign or symbol in deep meditation practice, which is generally the mind throwing up the symbol of a light in the mind's eye, which is like a manifestation of concentration. So the sound of the silence being like a nimitta, a sign that the mind is calm and focused and grounded.
I think if you allow relaxation to take place before, not to say to yourself that you're going to be in that state of silence, but just try to release all those tensions, from your body and,
Yep.
and your mind and your emotions and all that. Because really a lot of people think that silence is just the kind of the end. I got to that point, and it's basically the beginning.
Yeah, very good.
What I noticed with myself when I was stepping into silence and trying at the beginning was that I would find myself in this place, but at the same time, it will last not too long, very short, because my sense of self was calling me. I was missing that familiar self.
Yep.
And for me, this was all kind of, this is all new and it's not very pleasant, this unknown,
And that's the challenge that a lot of people face beginning meditation is that when there's a little pause in the thinking, there's silence, which is good, but self gets uneased about that because like self needs the talking, the thinking to fuel it and to keep it going.
Yes.
So that's where not being afraid, the mind not being afraid to forego the thinking self, thinking to fuels and feeds the self, to allow that just fundamental knowing and being and experiencing the silence as something that's a profound experience. Even though it's self should be there. Oh, wow, this is great. I love this silence, because that disturbs the silence. It's like an allowing. When we're not disturbing something, then things become peaceful. Not even trying to get peaceful, not even trying to get to silence.
Just an awareness of it without thinking about it. Without questioning it.
And especially just noticing an in-breath, noticing an out-breath. If we're fully noticing, then there's less space for the thinking to occur. Thinking generally takes us away from the present moment and what we're doing. But if we're wholeheartedly doing and knowing an in-breath and knowing an out-breath, a sense of like connecting and enthralled or wrapped attention to the breath, then the mind quiets down naturally.
For me, if I get into that state, I've always called it buzzing awareness, because it must be like a sound, like and to me, it's then, once I get into that state, it's like, it's a real letting go of self. At that point, that's connected to me, that I feel more like I'm less bound by my body, more connected to everything. And it's sort of like that buzzing of life, or like just, I don't know, with everything else, sort of like that's sort of the noise to me.
Feeling more whole, more energized, more vibrant.
Like a part of everything. So it's like yourself is less. And then if I can hold that state, I can even then bring myself back and still feel that state at the same time.
Yeah, that's good. Peter?
John, if your mind's not responding to your physical senses, then you've got the stream of conscious thought all the time almost. And that appears to be a natural phenomenon, which you find it hard to compete against in a way. Is silence then a subsidiary stage that you've got to work hard to achieve and to arrive at?
It depends upon the nature of one's mind, but in a way, yes, it is a work coming back to the breath. It's a training, and it's a commitment, and that's where also having a one or two mental words in the mind, which in a way is thinking, not so much thinking about the word, but just wording or sounding the word in the mind, because we often do think in words, and we hear the sound. So the practice of having a mental word or two, what's called a mantra, can be really, really helpful to as a reference point to focus on. And so we're hearing the sound of the mantra, whatever we choose, which could be some one or two words in English, or it could be in a different language. Doesn't even have to mean anything, but just a sound that we align to, and then the mind becomes interested in that rather than just the humdrum of the regular thoughts. So it is a bit of a training, but in the process, one's developing patience and commitment and kindness, compassion towards ourselves, not beating ourselves up if there's lots of thoughts. And as was mentioned a couple of weeks ago, that's where the walking meditation can be really helpful. And especially slow walking, where you're balancing on one foot, you need to really focus on the feeling and the balance. The mind gets quiet, stops thinking. If you start thinking, you lose your balance.
But the more natural human state is actually this conscious stream of thought, isn't it? Because if people don't seek peace and quiet and meditation, silence out, it's not going to come naturally to them.
I think that it's become very much the norm now, but 100 years ago, people didn't think as much as they do now. It was more quiet time, and there wasn't just lots like radio, TV, mobile phones, so much sound. There was just walking or doing some knitting or listening to the fire. So our minds have become a lot more noisy than what they used to be. And meditation was something which was more natural, just sitting and watching the sun go down without thinking too much, and again, watching the fire or going for a walk and looking at the birds. So people's minds are a lot quieter, but they've become a lot more noisy, a lot more full in the last several decades. So it's like connecting back to that ability. It's a bit like a lot of children these days. They don't read. They don't pick up a book and maybe how do you hold a book? But it's, even though we've been reading books for thousands of years, but it's not a natural thing these days. It's like these lines and black lines and circles. What does it mean? They can hear the audio or watch a video. The brain is changing, and I think losing fundamentally important abilities that we've had for thousands of years, which includes the ability to just be aware, attend, be silent. Obviously, some people find that more natural, others a bit more challenged by that. And that's where techniques and strategies can be helpful, even if there is noise in the mind, just ignoring it. And that's where even having a visual focus as well, to focus on having the eyes open and looking at something as a meditation. So the noises may be in the background, but we're just sort of looking, feeling the breath, having the mantra if we want to.
Thank you,
Brendan?
I guess we have the noise of constant change now. Like when I was a kid, things didn't change that much, but now with technology, and especially with AI now, it's like there's so many new things to get used to. That you're overwhelmed by it. So finding that silence is so much more difficult.
So making sort of effort to seek out the external silence,
Go on retreat.
go on a retreat, and also especially the main thing, having the internal silence. So we do have the chance to have some retreat silence next Sunday, Easter Sunday, for those that would like to come and share that here with Ajahn Buri Panyo, Australian Buddhist monk. So there's certainly still space left on the retreat day. Some of you let me know that you're coming, but if you haven't and do want to come, just send an email to let us know that you'll be coming, and you can even decide that morning. There's always space. Think, oh, it's raining, the picnic's cancelled, go and do a meditation, stay inside. And he'll be here next Thursday to give the evening session. Thanks for coming out tonight, and have a great week.
Thanks.